I don't have any memories as a young child, as I don't have any memories before 9 years old. But the memories I do have is that we all lived in fear of my dad. An older sister has a lot more vivid memories. Our place was like the House of Horrors. She still remembers, and she's 60 years old now, Dad putting her finger into the door hinge and shutting the door on it. The neighbours knew how violent my dad was, but sadly in those days, hardly anyone talked about it. My dad was a violent alcoholic. I hated him. Hate's a powerful word, and I meant it. We all lived in fear of him. Even when he was sober, we were scared of him. Mum was quiet and subdued. She did not know how to hug or to show affection because of her abused childhood. Her dad, which I never met my grandfather, he raped her when she was about 6 years old. He got put into prison. She died 6 months ago, and she started to remember the last 2 years of all that happened all those years ago. She was in the room with 3 younger brothers, and she remembers the youngest one screaming. He would have been about 6 months old. I really miss her. I loved her heaps. She was very sweet. I was sexually abused by a family relative for the first time when I was about 10, 11 years old. I never told anyone until I was an adult and he was dead. Dad gave me my first drink when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I loved it. By the time I was 14 years old, actually 14 years old on one day to be exact, I was locked away in a mental institution classified as an alcoholic. I traded sex with men to access alcohol in those days until I was able to buy it at 17 when I started work. I had lots of different jobs, nurse aiding, worked in shops, and also the banking industry. I didn't drink every day in those days, but when I did, I drank heaps. And I cannot understand how so-called normal people, and I'm sure most of you are what I would call normal, can just have half a glass of wine and no more for the whole evening. I don't know how you do that. When I drink until I'm an alcoholic blackout. When I was 25, I went into the Salvation Army Bridge program here in Auckland for the first time. My drinking was causing problems at work, and I did not want to lose my job at the Reserve Bank. My motives weren't right though, so it wasn't surprising when I drank again. I would have periods of sobriety, but always went back to it. Excuse me. The one thing I did learn in rehab though is alcoholism is a disease. There's no cure. Abstinence is the only way to go. My drinking got worse and I ended up unemployable and spent time in and out of rehabs and detoxes the next 10 years. Drinking helped me forget about my past, but it also made me very, very sick. You could actually feel my liver when you felt down here. Actually, all you feel now is lots of fat. I've put lots of weight on. At one stage, when a doctor did a report on me, and I was sober at the time, he said I was a hopeless case, and I would never stay sober. Naturally, I drank again. I had no hope left. I remember my first day prostituting very, very well. I'd always wanted children and found out I was not pregnant again, and I emphasize again, I so much wanted children. Something just snapped inside of me. I did not care what happened to me anymore and thought I may as well get paid for having sex. I know that sounds crazy because it is crazy, but that's exactly what I thought. Excuse me. Without knowing what to charge, I went up to K Road here in Auckland and sat on a seat in a no-one red light red light area, and I waited. About 20 minutes later, my first client turned up. He was from Scotland. And I charged him $60. Within days, I was told I should have charged $80. Easy money, I thought. I found it very, very easy to do. Maybe because as a teenager, I traded sex for alcohol with men I knew and didn't know. For the next 14 months, I went up to Cairo 3 to 4 nights a week. I was raped, robbed, and scared many times. Each time I did it, I never knew if I was going to be raped again or murdered this time. I usually drank before I started, and sometimes I wouldn't even remember having clients because I was in an alcoholic blackout. But the only reason I discovered I had been prostituting that night, I had money in my pocket and there were condoms missing. Sometimes clients would say to me, "Can I give you a golden shower?" When I first heard that, I thought, that sounds really nice. Until I found out they wanted to urinate on me. Or they would want to poo on me. I could get $500 for that. I didn't let them do that, but I know of girls who did. I wondered, though, if I had a raging drug addiction as well, if I would have let that. I have to admit, I most probably would, because I let many other things happen to me. For about 3 months, at one stage, I did it without any alcohol in me. I realised I was a robot. I had no normal emotions. Everything was mechanical. I was not human. After about 14 months, I tried to stop, but I didn't. I did it off and on for 4.5 more years. I believe my childhood abuse made it very, very easy for me to prostitute, as it was just more abuse on someone who had spent many years already abused. I'm getting wound up now. In fact, I can't think of any prostitute that I know that hasn't had past abuse of some kind, especially sexual. Prostitution is just another abuse on people who have already been abused like myself. Prostitution will never stop, totally stop. But if a man knew he was going to be in trouble if caught paying for sex, I believe a demand will lessen a lot. Me and some other ex-prostitutes went down to Parliament and spoke at a select committee in late 2013. Beth Sabriksky, who I'm sitting next to down the front here, had a petition before Parliament to try and change our laws based on a Nordic model. The Nordic model is where it makes it illegal to purchase sex. Sweden has had a huge reduction in prostitution because of a Nordic model. The prostitutes are offered every possible help. Sadly, our government threw it out beginning of this year. Yet other countries besides Sweden are adopting a Nordic model. Iceland has this year. I believe a sex industry destroys people who are already vulnerable. And the worst thing the New Zealand government ever did was make it legal. All it did was make it easier to enter the industry. Prostitution is not normal. It's not. But by making it legal, the government is saying it's an okay job. Why make it easy to do? It's made people who have often already been abused get abused even more, even if it's only emotional. Many sex workers have addiction problems, and often when you want to clean up and the desire is there is no help when you need it, as there is always a long waiting list to get into detox or rehabs. If the help was there a lot quicker, the chances of changing your mind and remaining in prostitution would be less. I haven't prostituted since 1999. Actually, that's last century. That sounds good. But at the moment, the memories are very, very vivid, as if I had been raped yesterday. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and presently under a psychiatrist and a therapist to help me deal with that. I was starting to have lots and lots of flashbacks to those days. I believe a sex industry is not an option for women or men, as it destroys. It took me years to come right, and I'm still coming right. And I will get right, amen. I'm not in the church, I am in the church building. But anyway, I'm talking to the converted, I know. But there's many people who aren't lucky. I would have been dead otherwise. And I've been to funerals of people who have died. One of them was tragically murdered. I'm now 53 years old, and I left prostitution when I was 38. And I'm also a recovering alcoholic and attend AA meetings regularly. I've been sober for a few years now, and I'm thankful to have very, very deep faith in God, which I really believe has helped me get to where I am today, along with a great support network of people like the Salvation Army, my church, the Baptist Tabernacle in Queen Street, and countless friends and family. I could not have done it alone. Thank you.